Appreciate that.
Shoranandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoranandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharyasta Tarasati Shri Śrimad The Divine Grace of Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Skand Panduracharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki BBT Panduracharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Savior of the whole world is Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Dhyana Tulila Pavishta Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharyasta Tarasati Shri Śrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Printi Ki Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi All glory to the assembled devotees All glory to the assembled devotees All glory to the assembled devotees All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes. The first one, is there? No, it's not on. Should be the first switch or the second switch, second slide. Okay. Nope. Not yet. Are you pressing the first? No, the first slide on the left side. All the way left. All the way left. Okay, keep going. It's either the first one or the second one. Okay, now you got it. Okay, memorize that. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes, chapter titled Opening a Temple in Los Angeles. After a few weeks in San Francisco, Srila Prabhupada flew to New York, where the devotees greeted him with a grand airport reception. A city newspaper ran an article, Guru Returns. The New York Center at 26 2nd Avenue had improved, and there were new faces and enthusiastic kirtans. Quote, here are many new flower-like young boys and girls, and they are all so much interested in Krishna consciousness very seriously. I am surprised at their great enthusiasm, and I am very happy amongst them. Prabhupada had stayed in his old rooms at 26 2nd Avenue. Although there had been talk of getting him another residence, everything had been too expensive. Prabhupada had assured Brahmananda, I would like to stay in my apartment. If it is silent and solitary, I feel pleasure to live there, better than elsewhere. Although Srila Prabhupada's plans were to stay in New York less than 2 weeks, he talked of staying longer, if his disciples could arrange for him to work steadily at his translating and would help him publish his books one after another. Prabhupada had written Brahmananda, I want to sit down tightly with some assistance and spend the rest of my time translating Śrimad Bhāgavatam and other books, and train students to do preaching on the outside. So from now on, I would like to speak only at very important engagements, and for most engagements, have my students preach. All of you must learn to preach, and for me, my most important preaching work is to finish up the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. So please try to make arrangement like this, as it is very important that my books be finished as soon as possible. One day while Prabhupada was sitting in his room receiving his massage, he began talking and laughing. As he sat on the floor with one leg tucked under his body and one leg outstretched before him, he told the 2 or 3 devotees present how Krishna, carrying the lunch his mother had packed for him, would go to the forest with his cowherd boyfriends, who were also carrying lunches from home. Krishna and his friends would all sit together sharing their lunch, and Krishna always had the best ladus and kachoris. Prabhupada's eyes flashed, and he rubbed his hands together, smiling. I simply want to go to Krishna Lok so I can have some of Krishna's laddu and kachoris. I do not have any great diversion from this. I simply want to go there so that I can enjoy eating ladus and kachoris with Krishna and the cowherd boys. Opening his eyes wide, he glanced at Devananda, who was massaging him, and at the others in a room. Oh, he said to them, if you will give me ladus and kachoris, then I will bless you. Swamiji, please teach us how to make ladus and kachoris, the devotees replied excitedly. We will definitely make them for you. Yes, Prabhupada assured them, I shall show you. I shall teach you. And he went on talking in a jovial way. Newcomers in New York wanted to be initiated. One boy had seen Prabhupada's picture in Life magazine, cut it out and put it in his high school locker. A boy named Jay, after reading about Prabhupada and the other devotees in Evergreen Review, had visited the temple and found that everyone was devoted to Prabhupada. Some disciples whom Prabhupada had initiated by mail, like Indira and Ekayani, 2 sisters still in high school and living at home, were meeting their spiritual master for the first time. Prabhupada initiated all eligible newcomers. Jay is Jayananda Swami. Brahmananda, the engagement was in a huge auditorium with rows of seats, and the house was full. The bleachers were completely packed. This is at New York State University at Stony Brook. Are we preaching at Stony Brook nowadays? Param Brahma? Param Brahma? Are we preaching at Stony Brook nowadays? You went last week. Okay, see? We're doing. Brahmananda, the engagement was in a huge auditorium. Okay, and the house was full. It was dark, just some spotlights on us, and everything else is dark. The rows of seats went back and up, and we could hardly see the audience. First we held kirtan, and then Prabhupada spoke. As Prabhupada was speaking, we could hear the sound of chairs popping up as the students were getting up and leaving. But Prabhupada just went right on lecturing, as if he weren't aware of it. By the time the lecture was over, there were only about 24 people left. After the program, the devotee discovered that the car Prabhupada was supposed to ride in had already left. A student stepped forward, however, and offered his Triumph sports car, a tiny 2-seater. Prabhupada didn't like the car, but it was the only thing available. So Brahmananda drove Prabhupada back to Manhattan. Has anyone ever seen a Triumph 2-seater? TR4, TR6? We had one of those, right? Samarahari, I had one of those. You had one too? I had a Triumph Spitfire. Around midnight, Prabhupada dozed while Brahmananda, speeding, hurrying to get back to the temple as soon as possible. Prabhupada was dozing peacefully when Brahmananda hit a large pothole, and Prabhupada struck his head on the metal bar on the roof of the car. When they finally returned to the Lower East Side, it was past midnight, and it would be only a few hours before resting, before Prabhupada would have to catch his 9 a.m. flight to Boston. Although Prabhupada rose that morning on schedule, most of the devotees were still asleep when he left his apartment. At the airport, Prabhupada commented that his disciples, rather than simply praising him, should try to follow his example and rise early. Srila Prabhupada ki. The next chapter is the Boston chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from 4th canto, 1st chapter, text number 25, chapter titled Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. Kripavalokena hasad. Kripavalokena hasad. Vadeno palam. Vadane palam bitan. Vadane palatam. Vadane palam bitan. We should say that at least 3 times, right? Vadane no palam bitan. Tadrochisa prathite. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Nimilya munirakshini. Okay, please chant. Kripavalokena asad. Vadane no palambitan. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Kripavalokena hasad. Vadane no palambitan. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Kripavalokena hasad. Vadane no palangbitan. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Can you turn that a little bit so they can see? Kripavalokena hasad. Vanena opala pitam. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Anyone else? Kripavalokena hasad. Vadane no palambitan. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Ladies. Kripavalokena hasad. Vadane no palambitan. Tadrochisa pratihate. Nimilya munirakshini. Anyone else? Kripa avalokena. Glancing with mercy. Asat. Smiling. Vadanena. With faces. Upalambitan. appearing very much satisfied. Tat, there, Rochisa, by the glaring effulgence. Pratiyate, being dazzled. Nimilya, closing. Muni, the sage. Akshini, his eyes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see that the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. Please repeat. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see that the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. Purport. Since the deities were smiling, he could understand that they were pleased with him. Their glaring bodily effulgence was intolerable to his eyes, so he closed them for the time being. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Amrita Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankayate Gurum Yatkipatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Diratanam. So we're very fortunate here at Radha Govinda Mandir to always have the smiling faces of Sri Sri Radha Govinda. And their glaring effulgence is so pleasing that we can even keep our eyes open so that we can drink in the nectar. This vision should be with us always. Throughout the day, this is the benefit. Some people are wondering, why living in temple? Why coming and rising early, having Mangal Artik, having the deity darshan, shringar, like this? Because this is to impress within the heart this vision, so that it is always present with you. Everyone has their specific deities that they're attached to. And if you're fortunate, you'll have an opportunity to see many of the deities in ISKCON, all of which are equally beautiful. But none will ever be more beautiful than the deities who you first encountered. They become your Ishta Devata. And so you will always remember them. So this is a great fortune to have such facility. This in itself is what they say, worth the price of admission. People are paying anything. You have right here this venue. There's Brooklyn Academy of Music, there's Barclay Center. And we mentioned the other day that there are tickets. There was one concert, some female star. Our tickets were starting at $10,000. Starting at $10,000. Who can imagine? And they're paying like that. And the stadium filled. So if all those persons were paying to be able to see the deities, we could build this building next door very quickly. Just imagine. $10,000. Some of the tickets were going for $60,000, $70,000. But in the material world, this is what's called infatuation. It has no lasting benefit. You know, you go, you see, you pay, and then what happens? You're left, what do you get permanent? Does that image remain in your mind? Will it save you at the time of death? No. So this is the definition of illusion. And placing value on something which is not real. And of course, in the material world, practically speaking, everything is unreal. And Krishna has specifically created like that. Neha Vikrama Nasasti, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Sumandataha. So everything is covered by his arrangement, and only eligible for those who have paid the price. Not $10,000, not even $10. Only this ahoitikiya pratiyata, that this has to be this sincere endeavor, anyabhilasata sunyam jnana karma dinavatam, that one has this desire to exclusively dedicate himself, to set aside all other endeavors, right? A little difficult in the material world, especially when one is in school or in college. There's expectations. The families they've already had, matter of fact, you see in India, the parents have their children's lives planned out from birth till death. From birth till death. They have your college picked out. They have your wife picked out. They have your place of living picked out. Everything is completely picked out. And very difficult to escape that situation. Right? But if by Prabhupada's mercy one gets this taste for Krishna consciousness, then that taste will supplant all other inferior tastes. This is that desire, rasaragam rasopyasya param jasvanavartate. That higher taste. So this is the opportunity to develop that higher taste. You know, you won't get this anyplace else. You cannot get it. Only here on the association of the deities and the devotees. Right? It's almost inconceivable how every day the deities can be dressed in such a unique way to completely attract the mind. Every day is different. Every day. So if you take photographs every single day, for 10 years, they'll be all different. None will be the same. Even the same outfit, no one will dress exactly the same. No one will decorate the same. Right? Because in their heart, they're trying to please Krishna. And so they're expressing themselves. Prabhupada gave that analogy that when one decorates his face, then the reflection in the mirror also is decorated. So when we're doing our deity worship, we're removing this attachment, this desire to decorate ourselves by giving all of our attention to Krishna, making him beautiful and attractive. And then automatically our ego is minimized, not so much considering about our situation. Right? One definition of humility that was appropriate, almost within our line, it says that humility doesn't mean thinking less of oneself, but thinking of oneself less. You know, we're not the center of the universe. Not everything doesn't revolve around us, right? But it doesn't mean that we diminish our relationship with Krishna or the spiritual master or our position within the society or the community or anything else. We carry on. But we know that this is just what we need to do in order to preserve our situation, whether it's in the temple or in a job or in school or in the family. One has to have that. Be able to keep that spiritual demeanor at all times. Even sometimes it's covered. It's like when we go out, you know, to job, we don't wear our dhoti and kurta necessarily. But we don't forget who we are. We've changed our dress, but we haven't changed our mentality or our attitude, hopefully. Right? We don't identify with the external. You know, sometimes when in the military or in the IAS or the IPS, you dress up in your uniform and you think, now I'm a policeman. Or now I'm a military man. Like that. Just by putting on the dress, one gets a certain boost in ego. You know, but we don't concern ourselves with that as much. We're concerned only with somehow or other getting the attention of Krishna, if that's possible. We have to endeavor for that. It is not automatic. It is not automatic. We should not think, you know, that Krishna will somehow or other by being here, simply being here. Prabhupada gave that lecture in Mayapur, 1976, that one should be feeling himself a servant of the servant, and he should be engaged 24 hours a day. And he had that word, apprentice. He used the word apprentice. Just like in the material world, when one wants to learn something, he becomes an apprentice. Right? There's different trades still have apprentice. If you want to be a boiler maker, anybody know what a boiler maker is? It's not a drink. Anybody know what a boiler maker is? It's a person who does welding. He puts together steel plates. You can be in a shipyard, or you can be in a building, but that's a trade. You don't just get that trade. Even you go to school, you still have to be an apprentice. There's different grades. You get a certain category for 1 or 2 years, and you transition to be what's called a journeyman, or then a mechanic, and these are higher levels of expertise. All right, so even in the material world, how long does it take to become a subject matter expert? Anybody know that term? I know Hari Vilas does, but I won't ask him. Subject matter expert, you're considered after 10 years. Not 10 years including school. This is 10 years in the real world. Then you're considered subject matter expert. So what to speak here, what are we doing? Someone is thinking, I'm here for 2 years, I'm here for 3 years, I know everything. Right? We've seen that, right? Some people think, yeah, I'm here for 2 or 3 years. I know everything. Just like going to India sometimes. In India, Prabhupada used to joke like that. That you go to someone, you go to preach, you go to try to make life members. What is the first thing they say to you? I am knowing Krishna. This is their common response. I am knowing Krishna. We're trying to give them some introduction into actual reality. But they already think that they know Krishna. So it's like a full cup. You cannot put anything into a full cup. You know, it just runs out. It's already, he thinks he knows. So we should not be like that. We should always be thinking in our situation, Srinadi Srinechana. We have to have that attitude. That before the spiritual master, before the seniors, before Krishna, we are fool number one. Simply fool number one. We don't know anything. That attitude, pratipena, submissive inquiry and service. This is our key. Right? If we really want to have the ability to keep Krishna within our heart, then that heart has to be a clean place. It can't be a dirty place. And so everything we're doing now is for purification. The first instruction, Cheta Darpana Marjana. Cleansing the dust. And so this dust is not just, obviously it's an analogy. Lord Chaitanya is giving us reality in an analogy. Right? Because who understands that? Who is in the material world is thinking, I have to clean my mind? Prabhupada used to call it brain washing, brain cleansing. When they used to joke, because there was many attempts. There was a whole group of people kidnapping. These are Ted Patrick and all his associates, kidnapping devotees, saying everybody was brainwashed. Prabhupada says, not brainwashed, brain cleansing. Cleansing all the dirty things. And this is a fact, but you cannot tell people that. They don't recognize how many layers of anarthas. Every time you watch something that's not Krishna conscious, that's simply another layer. Just like if you try to, we're doing renovation, and sometimes we're peeling off layers of paint 40 years thick. And what is that? You peel off a layer, then you peel off another layer, then you peel off another layer. So every time you do something in the material world, what did that Mahatma Prabhu, who is doing better, he said that whatever you're doing outside of your japa is also affecting your japa. So this is a fact. You're just putting layers. And Vishnu Jan Maharaj, he had a very nice term for it. Actually, it works both ways. He called it impure reminiscence. He used to give these very nice nectar devotion classes. Impure reminiscence means without any, conscious effort, all of a sudden, by whatever reason, you remember something from your past, triggered by some sight, smell, sound, and all of a sudden you're transported back 20, 30, 40 years to that impure reminiscence. It could be anything. Could have been a rock concert, could have been this, could have been that. But this is just another layer of anarthas. And so we're trying to cleanse all those, just stripping them off, one after another, one after another. So this process is not complete in 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Especially if you've been alive as long as we have, right? So many years of cleansing. Even if you joined at an early age, how many millions of births? Bahunam Jamanamante Gyanavam Mahaprabhadya. Why after many, many births? Why not just after one birth? Right? Because that's how long it takes to become free from these anarthas. One who's actually in knowledge. Then you can surrender. So anyone who's here who is surrendered, who is fully surrendered, who says, yes, from this day forward, I am a completely surrendered soul. Then that's the reason. He's come to this level. And don't take it casually. Don't take it cheaply. Don't lose this opportunity. It can danger at every step. Padam, padam, yadvi padam natesham. Why did Prabhupada constantly refer to this? Because it can happen. It can happen to anyone. All right? Prabhupada said, you cannot do this, I cannot do this, in relation to Haridas Thakur being allured by Maya Devi. You cannot do this. So we have to be very, very careful and always consider why things are happening. And we should use these instances as a means to reinforce our faith and confidence in Krishna. All right, when Prabhupada was listening to the lecture this morning, when Prabhupada was recounting how he was gored by the cow or bull. Because they all have horns, right? Chanakya Pandit gives very clear instruction to beware of animals with horns and teeth. All right, so Prabhupada was gored severely and pushed down on the road, and there was no one to help him. And he carried that scar up until he left. So very dead. So most likely ribs were broken. He's lucky his lung was not punctured. Has anyone ever been gored by a cow or knocked by a cow? No one's worked in the Goshala? 1, 2, yes. It's not a nice thing. All you do is flick their head like that, and you feel, it's so strong. They're pulling a yoke. They can do so many things. And, when we were working in the Goshala, it was a frequent thing. You had to be careful. Anytime they could just shake their head. And a few times they catch you, you don't want to happen again. All right? No person can punch you as hard as a cow can butt you in that respect. So very painful. So who can imagine the pain Prabhupada suffered? And he was thinking like that. He was thinking, why did this happen to me? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. He said like that. What have I done wrong? But then he realized that this is just Krishna's test. So Prabhupada was also accepting that these things can happen, and it is Krishna's test. So who are we? We get some minor inconvenience and we have to run away. We cannot take it. Too difficult. Yes, living in an ashram is difficult. You have to make so many adjustments, so many accommodations, to make friends with everyone. Why is that? Yeah, because vancha kalpa tarubhyas cha kripastindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Because this is not an ordinary sangha. This is not just a bunch of people living together, sleeping in a building in the middle of Brooklyn. No. A very special situation. So we're very fortunate. And the most fortunate is that Radha Govinda are always smiling on us. All right? People commonly refer that since the transformation, that Radha Govinda are always smiling. This transformation now is almost 6 years. In November, 6 years. So in 6 years, Krishna has given many opportunities to many individuals to take part in this amazing situation, this renaissance. Just like Prabhupada, when he came back to 2nd Avenue after being on the West Coast, he was enlivened. Why was he enlivened? Because he saw new faces. He saw improvements. He saw the kirtans were enthusiastic. So this is all a sign. Prabhupada's looking for these things. He is noting these things. So many people can note simply by these symptoms whether things are going on correctly or not. And they're just like that, there's also symptoms of when things are not going correctly. And we should be cautious and be aware what those things are. Everyone has an opportunity to observe. Right? This is, we're not just dull stone. You know, we have to see things and have the proper perspective. There's Prabhupada defined intelligence. What is that? In the 4th chapter, 10th chapter, 4th and 5th shloka, what is that?
You always say that to see things in their proper perspective.
Yes, intelligence means to see things in their proper perspective. Right? So it's very important. All the definition is there. We don't have to speculate. Right? Someone is saying, no, intelligence means IQ. What is that? Simple, some test. They have people who can pass this test who are functionally unable to live independently in the material world. They're called idiot savant. They even have a term for it, idiot savant. A genius, but like a child. Cannot function independently in the material world, within this particular aspect. But some of them can function in other ways. It's like Jad Bharat. Internally, we understand who he was because we have the benefit of the scriptures. But externally, no one could understand who Jad Bharat was. Because externally, he was a crazy man, a madman. So there are people like that, and then there are others who are just plain idiots. That's a different story. They're not Jad Bharat. Someone tries to pretend that they're Jad Bharat. You know, sometimes you see people will say, yes, I act like this because I'm avadut. No, don't accept that. No, we follow in Prabhupada's footsteps. You know, and Prabhupada was very clear how we should behave as a reflection on his teachings. Everything we do is a reflection of Prabhupada's teachings. If we are misbehaving, then people are judging the entire society. And so we have to be very careful. We have to maintain a very high standard. This is our responsibility, to make sure that everything about this situation, about our temple, whatever we're doing, however we're making this presentation, should be a beneficial reflection. Actually, we see people walking by, maybe Harivas, have you noticed? When the lights are on, we're working, everybody stops and looks at the changing bodies diorama. Nobody can pass by without stopping. They see that and they're struck, immediately struck. What is that? And when they glance at it, they can actually relate to it almost instantaneously. So it's a very strong preaching tool. People are very much happy. When we had it out on the street for Janmashtami, people were stopping and taking pictures with it. And it works. When you plug it in, it lights up. And you see the soul transmigrating. So it's a very nice preaching tool. And we'll have to figure out how to incorporate it into something. Maybe we'll put it in one of the windows in the Bhakti loft so everybody can see it outside in the building across the street. No, you need something ground floor. But anyway, there's so much. Krishna consciousness has so much to offer to catch the conditioned soul. They're just waiting to be caught. Just like you have, you see sometimes in these ponds, so many fish, but it's for decoration. Nobody's fishing there because anybody could catch a fish in that circumstance. So in the material world, there's all these living entities. They're all ready to be caught. We just have to put out the Bhagavad Gita, put out the philosophy to them, and catch them. It's not difficult. You see that now, the traveling Sankirtan, Vasili and Param Brahma, going out every day, books are going, books are going, books are going. This is automatic. You just have to make the endeavor, and Krishna reciprocates. I reciprocate. Now, Krishna's telling you. So what else do you have to know? You don't have to speculate. If you do this, he will reciprocate. It may not be exactly what you expect. That reciprocation may come in the form of some realization that I am just a servant, or I am just insignificant. So many things. Sankirtan gives you so much insight into the workings of the material mind in this attempt to adjust this spiritual material dichotomy that we experience on a continual basis. Everyone is confronted every day with material desires and spiritual solutions. So we just have to be very, very attentive. The whole point of what Prabhupada named the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because he said, first be conscious, then be Krishna conscious. Because we have to take everything very carefully, and everything should be, like I said, seen in the proper perspective, and that's the best use of our intelligence. And then we won't have any difficulty. Prabhupada said, what is the difficulty? Don't manufacture difficulty. Don't give your mind an opportunity to give you an excuse. Otherwise, you'll always have an excuse. It's nothing. This is Maya's service, is to make suggestions. It doesn't seem like that, but that's what's happening. Make suggestions. Yes, you can enjoy this. Yes, you can enjoy that. Do this, don't do that. You can sleep a little longer. You can eat more than you need. She's always giving some temptation, right? Even in the Bible, they give this analogy of in the Christ's trials in the garden, where he had this. We understand. It's so simplistic, but that's the way they view it. That he was, that temptation for them, they disembody it in order to remove themselves from any proximate responsibility. In other words, this temptation is not coming from me, it's coming from Satan. I'm not responsible. Right? There was an old comedian many, many years ago, no one else will remember. And his famous tagline was, "The devil made me do it." That was his famous tagline. The devil made me do it. It wasn't me. Right? The temptation wasn't me. It didn't spring from my mind. It was external. The devil made me do it. And this way, there's no ability to reconcile. In other philosophies, they cannot understand how it is that self-realization, what does it mean, what does it involve, how to use this as your guiding principle in life. No, they'll always default to that. If something goes wrong, it's not my fault. I was tempted and I couldn't resist. What did they say? They also said, what was that? The flesh is weak. They always say that. The spirit may be willing, but the flesh is weak. Very easy to say like this. And that's why they have confession every Saturday. Right? Sin all week and confess on Saturday. So it's very convenient, It's like what? And I can remember long conversations in places like where they're going today in Port Authority, because one of the things that they like to do to disturb book distribution is try to engage you in useless conversation. And you have to kind of walk away. It's tempting to want to debate them, but you can't win. There's no point. They don't have it. They don't have the capacity. Once you realize that, then you say, I'm just wasting my time. They don't have the capacity to understand. One time I told one guy, I said, for you, Jesus Christ is just a life insurance policy. That's all. I said, if I do anything wrong, yeah. I said, is that very nice? That he'll take all your sins? I can do anything? He didn't like that, so he walked away. I said, okay. That was good. I can keep distributing books. But this is what happens. So you have to sympathize, because but for the grace of Radha Govinda, that would be us, technically, if we hadn't come in contact with a pure devotee, or the pure devotee's teachings, or the pure devotee's disciples. This is how this movement will continue for 9,500 more years in Kali Yuga, or 9,462 years, whatever it is now. So that without any problem, as long as we follow, and we're reading every day from the Prabhupada Nugas, the essential instructions that Prabhupada was giving in order to perpetuate the movement. So everyone should know them, warts and all. Sometimes it's not pleasant to read some of these things that happened. But these are meant for us to learn so that we don't have to commit the same mistakes. Right? Isn't that the key? Right? Even the karmis, what do they say? Forget the mistake, learn the lesson. Right? Very short aphorism, but it works. Forget the mistake, learn the lesson. Don't dwell on it. So these things, we have an opportunity, whatever mistakes we've made, think about all the lessons hopefully we've learned, and how we can help others to overcome, and maybe even see, because this is also a little tricky. When someone's going to make a mistake, but you can't always, and so sometimes you just have to let them. My god brother Urjaswat, we're doing the Bhakti program, and sometimes it's quite frustrating, just to be honest. And he said, sometimes you just have to let them make their own mistakes so that they learn the lesson. You know what's going to happen, but they're not going to hear it. So he said, oh, okay. So this is, we'll all have this opportunity to help each other, hopefully, that, if someone is starting to, you see some symptoms. What are those symptoms, Not paying attention to japa, not paying attention to the spiritual program, missing class, missing RT. You see these things. Very rarely will you see people missing breakfast, though. Right? I wonder why that is. But you have to be a friend. This is the key. And gently, no problem. There's a certain point when tough love is involved, but for that you have to get Arjuna Nanda to exercise that, because he'll say, Prabhu, what's going on? See, there's Arjuna Nanda. He'll live to be 100 years. They say, no, don't give here. Hang it back here for speaker tonight. Thank you. So we'll read the very short verse, a very interesting verse. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see that the 3 devas were gracious towards him. We're more fortunate. How many devas do we have? How many devas do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 devas. Atri Muni was happy because he had 3 smiling at him. So how fortunate are we? He could understand that they were pleased with him. Their glaring bodily effulgence was intolerable to his eyes, so he closed them for the time being. So, such a benediction. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. So this Premanjana, right? We just made that description the other day. This, this makeup, this Anjana cudgel they use. You smear the eyes with that ointment of love, like that. So that also protects from the sun. You see, even in America, the football players, they put that black under the eyes, and people don't understand what that's for. That's to reduce the glare coming into the eye. So you'll see them, they have this black stripe under their eye. People say, why do football players have this black stripe under their eye? But it reduces the glare. So if we have this opportunity to develop this salve of love of God, then we can drink as much as we like, as much as you're capable of. But you have to reciprocate. You have to reciprocate. Very simple. And it's not much. One lifetime. One lifetime. And if you consider carefully how many lifetimes you've wasted, this is a real bargain. This is a real bargain. Only one lifetime. So don't waste it. Don't contemplate other paths of so-called happiness. There is none. The path has already been chalked out. All the paths of suffering, the paths of material enjoyment, jnana karma dhrunavatam, anukulyena, everything is there. All right? So-called knowledge, so-called mystic powers. Right? But there's only one true path. That path which saves one from repeated birth and death. Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, takvadayam purna janma, nayati mamiti sarjana. That's it. One who knows the transcendental nature. So this is our endeavor. This is what this school of bhakti is all about. Right? And we have this very nice opening tonight. So, standing room only, full capacity. So we'll see how everything goes by Krishna's arrangement. Any questions or comments or corrections? Vibhatinanda, any correction? Okay. To make sure Vibhatinanda is right. Yes, Mataji. There's a mic someplace here that the boys will run to you so that they can hear it on the live stream.
Towards the end of your talk, you had mentioned about not wasting, how many lifetimes till we've gotten to this point, and not to waste this life. And, as I've gotten old, I've realized how many opportunities I've missed in Krishna consciousness. And so I was just wondering, how do we avoid not missing those opportunities?
Good question. Somehow or other, Krishna is always, if we're listening carefully, because Krishna is within our heart, and from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He's giving us opportunities all the time to engage in any situation. Grihe take, vane take, sada hari bole take. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing that, it doesn't matter what stage of life one's in, whether it's Grihastha, whether it's Vanaprastha, whether it's sannyas. So there's this Prabhupada, he made the change, but he had a doubt initially. But then he realized that this was Krishna's test. So sometimes we have to do something in order to determine. It's like they say you dip your toes in the water to determine the temperature. So sometimes we have to go and check out opportunities, potential opportunities. And it's like we have lots of devotees who come to New York, and they come just to dip their toe in the water, but they end up jumping full on head first, because New York is so much nectar, so many things to do. It has something for everyone at every level of preaching, at every level of internal development, external development. And that seems to be something that New York has, that, maybe there's other places, but I've seen that, at least in my experience, that there's, the word we use is dynamic, and it doesn't always apply to other temples. That New York has a certain dynamic. Of course, it is New York. Even Prabhupada came here for a reason, right? And even the bards, the great famous bards sang, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So this is the conclusion. So we encourage devotees, wherever they are, to step a little bit outside their so-called comfort zone and try to do something that may be a bit challenging, but will lead to a greater depth, internally realization, externally in pushing on the movement. And this is like Harinam. So many people come. We want to come to New York Harinam. We say, yes, come. Why not? We have room for at least another 50, 60 devotees in the current building. Right? Right? We used to have 90 devotees. There was 11, minimum 10, 11 plus devotees in each room. So count how many. And 2 floors. So 90 devotees, very easily. And now we only have maybe 55, 60. So we can accommodate 30 more. Manaji, you're also welcome to come anytime. We have. Well, we're encouraging everyone to come. There was, I saw, it was not an offering. It was, we were looking through some old files. And Sridhar Swami, who at one point was he was the GBC here for a while, regional secretary. And he was doing the work of the ISKCON Foundation at the time. That's when they were doing all the databases, trying to get this fundraising on a level on par with, like, big companies, big things. It was worthwhile to try, but it didn't really pan out because it involved too much, how can you say, detail on the details as opposed to details on the cultivation of the congregation. You're doing details and it's not beneficial ultimately. You're trying to cultivate and encourage, and you're not considering the so-called return. It may be there statistically, proportionally, but if you're considering only it from a numerical point of view, then your vision is not correct. You have to look, you're seeing people as numbers, and we don't want to do that. That's not our intent. But so Sridhar Maharaj wrote this letter, and in this letter, this thought, he was saying, he said, and this is 20 plus years ago, maybe more now, almost 30 years ago. He was saying, we're all growing old, and we're all in the same age group, myself, Sridhar. And he was encouraging all of his godbrothers that whatever they're doing now, they should wind up their activities. You've already been in your Grihastha ashram for 20 plus years. So now is the time to come back and push on Srila Prabhupada's mission. And so he was putting out this clarion call and saying, please consider what is the mission of our spiritual master. You who have so much experience, who have opened so many temples and made such great endeavor and suffered such, great hardships. Now is the time, because the challenges, there's so many challenges now. So we should look for those challenges. We should look for those opportunities, because that's where ultimately we will find the greatest satisfaction. In knowing that at least let me endeavor to whatever capacity for that time remaining to me to push on the mission of the spiritual master. What other reason? We already gave our lives, at least by taking the vows. Sometimes that vow you have to actualize it on a regular and frequent basis. You have to consider it. Can't just say, okay, that was then and this is now, right? Isn't that, a lot of times people will say that. We'll say, well, there's 4 regulative principles and there's 4 prohibitive. And I say, that was then. This is now. Trying to get that. So Maharaj, please, anytime. We have nice rooms upstairs. You can help develop the brahmacharya ashram. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
So, when you said about impure reminiscences, so as we progress in spirituality, does if we spend like 10 years, let's say, does those go away or they still remain?
These memories are, in one sense, permanent impressions. But Prabhupada gave the analogy of a glass half filled with ink. And so if you pour in clear water, gradually, by the theory of displacement, given to us by who? Archimedes. Clear water will take the place of that colored water. And so the purification is that, yes, they'll still be there, but they won't have any effect on you. This is the real immunization. You become Krishnaized. Everything about you, including your thought process, becomes Krishnaized. These things are in the back, maybe they still pop up, but they don't have any effect. It's like, Prabhupada used that analogy of the poisonous snake whose teeth have been removed. The snake is still there, but he poses no threat anymore. You're not afraid of him. He doesn't bother you. And so, yes, some of these times, these impure reminiscences, they'll come, but you can immediately reject them, which is the business of the mind in any case, accepting and rejecting. Right? So it comes and it's immediately rejected, like a nasty thing in general. Just reject it. Nobody meditates on a nasty thing, a dirty thing, right? You just put it out of your mind. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness, replacing those so-called inferior thoughts, tastes, activities by that higher taste. Rasopyasya, paramjasva. Paramjasva means higher taste. So that will happen. You will get that higher taste. You'll have, just like people, first thing they give up when they come to Krishna consciousness is meat, flesh. No one thinks about eating meat again. Even devotees who have gone far away from Krishna consciousness, they never think about, for the most part, eating meat. It's such a nasty thing. This is dead flesh. And that. So like that, everything is like that, ultimately. Once you, by practice, by perseverance, everything. Illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling, all gradually. But the endeavor has to be there. Whatever you put in, you can get out. Right? As you surrender to Krishna. So don't forget, this is a reciprocation. There's a reciprocation. You do something for Krishna, he does 10 times more for you. And Krishna's 10 times is not like our 10 times. It's like 10 million times. But we don't understand how merciful Krishna is. Krishna is all merciful. So who can appreciate, who can understand how merciful he is? And he's giving it freely. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Paramadaya Te Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurdasena Maha. Patita Pavana Hetu Tabhavatar Mo Samo Patita Prabhu Na Paribeara. You know that translation? The Lord is Patita Pavana. What do they say? I am the most fallen, and therefore I have priority. So one should think like that, because I'm so fallen, therefore, my dear Lord, please give me priority. Any other questions? Yes, Rebhakti Nandan Prabhu.
Here it says, Atrimuni says the three deities, they are so effulgent. We hear often devotees saying Prabhupada was also glowing. Did you ever experience that?
Yes, why not? Prabhupada, we used to see, of course, this could have been our youthful enthusiasm. But yes, we used to see that Prabhupada had a halo. Just like you see, and of course, this is an indication of what people call aura. You know, so a spiritual personality, a real spiritual personality, has an aura depicted as a halo. You know, because they didn't know. Prabhupada had a genuine aura. So we're very fortunate to have had that. And in every aspect, his personality was effulgent. You know, to our limited understanding of what that means. You know, and we can just imagine. I mean, here, you know, this was in our conditioned view. You know, but for someone who was actually advanced, who knows? Prabhupada he used to call his guru Vaikuntha man, a Vaikuntha gentleman. So what to speak of Srila Prabhupada? You know, what? But, you know, I don't want to get into that situation. Prabhupada was very careful about it. Sometimes when he was on this Vyasasan, he had given very ecstatic kirtan, Jai Radha Madhava. Nobody, the whole room was vibrating, was jumping and vibrating like that. And sometimes also he would, and you could see it, you could feel this, what they call shadow devotion. His ecstasy was washing over all the devotees in the temple room. This is a very tangible thing for anyone who was there. It's not something phantasmagorical or exaggerated. You can ask anyone who was in the room, and they'll say yes. We don't know how we could experience such ecstasy. How we're just materially conditioned souls. It's not coming from within us. So we understood that it's coming from Prabhupada. And there was that famous instance when he went into trance. And when he came out, he said, I don't do that very often. Right. So yes, Prabhupada was a Vaikuntha man, but well, for us, we just have to live with our past, but gradually, anyone who's been here for a few years knows that it becomes minimized, right? So this is a benefit, this is a side benefit. No one who is practicing seriously and sincerely is troubled in the same way as before he came, unless he's not following. Right? Yeah, we can tell you practically that the process works. You know, but there's, like I said, the limitations are internal to our specific situation. If you're going to fight it, then advancement will come slower. If you don't want to give up false ego, false pride, and all these other anarthas, yes, it will take longer. Of course, Revatinandan is blessed to be a nice, humble brahmachari. So yeah, you'll have no problems. I bless you.
Thank you.
No problems in spiritual life. We should all be, what else can we ask for the spiritual master? We don't ask anything foolish. Dhanam Devi, you know, probably that people go to the Devi, they want wealth, right? We don't go to the spiritual master, but please bless me that I may continue to serve, you know, your loving deities, Radha Govinda, and your lotus feet in whatever capacity. So that's simple prayers, what's not complicated. Doesn't have to be, you know, fancy poetry or prose. No, it's not necessary. But it has to be sincere, that's all. Prabhupada gave that many times. He said, sincere prerequisite for success in spiritual. So some people don't appreciate that. What does it mean to be sincere? It means to be without duplicity. Not to be doing this for some ulterior motive. That's what it means. Anya ahoitikiya pratira. No ulterior motive. So we have to sometimes examine our situation. You know, am I here for the right reason? You know? Because one has to be honest, right? Isn't that the quality of a Brahmin? Arjavam, right? He has to be honest with himself and with others. Straightforward and honest in ordinary dealings. Then life is simple, materially or spiritually. Because even the materialists, they say, honesty is the best policy. But you know, you don't see that reflected in most of their activities. But yet they have a saying like that, because intrinsically, they know that that's a fact. But externally, they don't practice. Any other questions? We have a busy day today. It's not Sunday, but we have the Bhakti Loft. We have to get everything ready. So many things to do, so many guests to prepare for. If anyone wants to help out, Hari Vilas is more than willing to engage you. He'll put a paintbrush in your hand, or a broom in your hands, or a mop in your hands, or a rag. Yeah, so many things to do. All right? Srila Prabhupada ki, Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev ki, Akadasi Vrata ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.